Good afternoon, everybody. It's now 2 o'clock. So welcome to this meeting of the Police and Crime Panel. This meeting is being broadcast live to the public via YouTube and will be available for viewing on YouTube after the meeting. Please turn your microphone on when speaking and turn it off when you are finished. A fire alarm test is not scheduled today, so if the alarm does sound, please exit the room and the Democratic Services Officer on my left will direct you towards the fire exit. I have received apologies from Councillor Wise and Councillor Powell is substituting, so welcome. And we have also received apologies from Salman Manzoor and Councillor Bhupen Dave. So we move straight into the agenda then. Item 1, the first item on the agenda is the minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of September 2025, pages 3 to 10 in your agenda pack. Does everybody agree that the minutes are an accurate record? Ellie?
Thank you, Chair. I just seem to recall in terms of the Police Crime Commissioner's annual report, I raised a question about the overwhelming support for the increase in the police precept and asked for the wording of the consultation and the data that evidence that. That hasn't been marked in the minutes. Thank you.
Very second, so we're just checking for the accuracy of the minutes.
So was this something that was said at the meeting but has not been recorded in the minutes and you would like it to be recorded in the minutes? Okay. Would everybody else agree and is happy that that amendment should be made to the minutes?
Ali, can you just pinpoint it on the minutes, please?
Well, it's really page 6 and then it goes on to resolved. But arising from the discussion, the following points were noted and you've got 1, 2, 3. But it doesn't mention the point I raised. I was just a bit astonished to see that there was overwhelming support for an increase in the police precept. That's all I wanted, just to see the evidence of that.
So we'll minute this as the minutes of the previous meeting were agreed as a correct record, subject to the addition of a bullet point number 4 saying what you just said. Everybody happy?
Everybody happy? Okay, thank you, Ewan. Thank you, Ellie. Anybody else? Or everybody else happy with the minutes for a record as they stand? Yes, everybody happy? Okay, I'll try the other one. Any dissenters? No, thank you. Agenda item 2 is minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of September. It's pages 11 to 16 in your agenda pack. Does anybody agree that the minutes are an accurate record? I may have some interesting comments, but they are accurate as far as the meeting is concerned, in my opinion. So any other observations from members? Okay, thank you. We'll take those. Agenda item 3 is public question time. I have received no questions from the public. Agenda item 4 is urgent items. I have received no urgent items. Agenda item 5 is declarations of interest in respect of items on the agenda. Do any members have any interest they wish to declare? Mr. Harrison.
Mr. Chairman, a one-off. Both the Crime Commissioner and myself share the same political party, so I don't have to say it again once I've said it, hopefully, Mr. Chairman.
Noted. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Agenda item 6 is the first report on the agenda today is the Police and Crime Commissioner's update report, pages 17 to 44 in your agenda pack. Mr. Matthews, please go ahead.
I think I will start, as I usually do, by paying tribute to my Chief Executive and to the staff at my office for pulling this report together and making sure that it is as easy to understand as sometimes these things are. But if I can just trot you through a few items, it's always unfair to pull things out, of course, but I'll start on page 18 with the section 1 community consultation and engagement. As everyone here will know, I'm sure, I take this extremely seriously. It is my job to represent the public to the police, as well as to my office, of course, and to ensure that what we are doing is in accordance, insofar as is possible, with the public's wishes. Obviously, we are quite often constrained by funding agreements with central government, but we'll be coming on to the budget, I dare say, in a future meeting. But as I say, I take community consultation extremely seriously. So this section outlines where I've gone and who I have met, together with some of the issues that have arisen in the course of those meetings. If you turn to page 24, you will see we're moving on to commissioning now. As I'm sure members here know, but for the sake of those who may be watching for the first time, my office commissions a wide range of services to do with crime prevention, victim support, and so on. And again, as members here will know, I take crime prevention very seriously. Indeed, it is much better that a crime is prevented than that the culprit is caught and punished after they have already inflicted harm on our public. So that said, I'll just, again, it's unfair to pick a few things out, but I will. So on page 24, the nighttime economy, St John's ambulance in Leicester City, I had the pleasure of visiting them at about, I think, 1 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and was able to see what they were doing. They were doing it very efficiently and effectively, and were helping those members of the public who, not had injured themselves. They do help members of the public who injured themselves. When I was there, they were helping members of the public who were in some distress and perhaps needed some help to get home. And we're doing it remarkably efficiently. So I want to pay tribute to them on that. Page 28, looking at the nighttime economy marshals in Blaby Town Centre. Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to go out with these personnel, but I would draw your attention to the fact that we are planning well in advance to make sure that the people of Blaby are safe. Again, this is something that's being done through the Community Safety Partnership. Every area in Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland has a community safety partnership, and they do work extremely hard doing, as the job suggests, keeping our communities safe. And again, I want to pay tribute both to them and to those staff in my office who liaise with them and work with them to try and keep our communities as safe as possible. In regards to Hinckley and Bosworth, the thermal imaging camera, I did have the opportunity to go and see and to talk to the officers who will be using it about the uses to which it can be put. And I must say, I was ever so impressed, both at the definition of that camera and the excellence of it, but also at the small size of the thing. So it's something which can quite clearly be very mobile and can be moved out. I'm going to draw your attention, if I may, Chair, to the graph on page 35, which confused me when I first saw it, and in order to preempt any questions that may come here. The red line and the blue line are to do with different axes. So in order to hit the red line, which is percentage compliance, the blue line does not need to meet the red line. What the red line is telling you is that in every single month on the graph, we have achieved 100% compliance with the independent custody visits. And I know, again, the amount of work that the volunteers put into that, and would like to pay tribute to them. Finally, if I may, on page 38, holding the force to account, I just thought I'd flag up that the heading is at the bottom of the page, but does in fact refer to not what's on page 38, but 39, 40, 41, and so forth. Obviously, our police force does its job very well. I wish to pay tribute to them, and holding the force to account is a very large part of what my office and I spend our time doing, and it is important, I think, particularly in these days of accusations being made about the police, that they do come under proper scrutiny and they are held to account for what they do. And I am very pleased to pay tribute to my office that helps me doing it. So, having unfairly pulled out a few bits and pieces from that report, I would commend it to you, Chair, and to the panel. as being a accurate summary of what I and my office have been doing since last we met. Although obviously it is only a summary and cannot capture all the detail and all the effort that goes in. And as I say, I know my staff and those volunteers and so on with whom we work do work extremely hard at doing their jobs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Just before I open it up to the panel, I've also got one question at the moment, which relates to the funding for the CSPs on page 24. So we're halfway through the year. You've got a chunk of money left, with the exception of 2 authority areas. How much pressure or emphasis, or are you confident that that money will actually be allocated and spent within the relevant timeframe?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, is the short answer to that. The community safety partnerships have been told that, unlike in previous years, they will not be able to roll this over. And if they don't spend the money, they will lose it. That was in an effort to try and stop community safety partnerships from rolling too much over, because this money is for the benefit of our public. It is to keep our community safe. And I think it's important that it is spent on relevant projects during the financial year, rather than just being constantly rolled over. I don't know if my Chief Executive wishes to add anything at this point.
Just to add that we have an officer that works within the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner that liaises with all of the community safety partnerships, and I caught up with him and he is very confident that actually where you can see a nil spend, there are plans in place for that amount of money. They just haven't actioned it yet, which is why it's not reflected in the paper.
Okay, thank you. Both. Mr. Willis.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to come back in on that point, actually, the Community Safety Partnership Manager retired, so we actually have a new officer in place, which has kind of stored some of the process in Harborough, so that's one of the nil figures you see there. For a more personal question, sorry, Rupert, item 17, the report on the Light and Life from the Chief Constable, do we have any idea when that might be delivered?
Mr. Matthews.
Thank you. I know switching microphones on is not something I'm terribly good at. I apologise. I don't think we have a firm date, do we?
No, we track actions through the board, so it's an action that is outstanding from one of our round tables, and we will follow up. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mrs. Pell.
Thank you, Chair. On a similar point, point 16 on that, which was a suggestion about introduction of fixed penalty notices for small scale shoplifting. Can you just confirm that any action on that is in your action plan, or has any progress been made on that? Thank you.
It's not something I can actually do. I can only raise it with the Chief Constable. As you know, the Chief Constable does have operational independence, and while I'm sure everyone on this panel would have an idea about something they would love the police to do, all I can do is raise it with them. Again, I'm not sure we've got a firm date when this is going to come back.
Not yet.
No. I mean, if you wish, I'll raise it with the Chief Constable again. I happen to think it's a good idea. But no, it's up to the Chief Constable, I think.
Thank you. Any other questions, observations? No, thank you, Mr. Matthews. Your report is noted. Thank you very much. Agenda item 7. The next report is Police and Crime Plan Delivery Update, pages 45 to 52 in the agenda pack. Mr. Matthews, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Well, again, I would like to pay tribute to my office and my Chief Executive for pulling this report together. I think it is early days yet. I think we're not even a tenth of the way through the cycle for implementing this, nor indeed are we a tenth of the way through implementing it. But as I'm sure you will be aware, Chair, many of these things take time to build up. Many of them take time to get the necessary procedures in place. And I think the fact that we are more or less on track, I suppose I should have highlighted it somewhere, but I think we're 9% of the way through the process and 8% of the way through implementing things, which is pretty close. Normally at the beginning of a cycle, you would expect to be lagging far behind and then catch up as different things come on stream. So again, if there are any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them. But speaking for myself, I think I'm quite happy with the progress being made, and we'll look forward to being able to bring more reports to this panel to update you on the implementation as we roll forward through the 4-year cycle. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. I think there is a big win personally on page 47, number 8, the introduction of this new performance management table. This, members, is the first time we've ever seen this, but it's something we've been badgering for a while to understand the performance and how it's measured and what the metrics look like. So I believe the Chief Exec will assure me that we will now see this on a rolling basis and it will develop and evolve over time. So, Councillor Butcher.
Just a couple of things, if I'm reading it correctly. Page 47, the same, number 56. The crime has increased, so it's from 7.6 to 8%. Would that be a red? Or is it correct how it is?
Are you, Claire?
Apologies, on line 56, I've got one of the lines that we haven't yet put figures in.
I've got business crime headline, decrease was 7.6, but then it goes to 8.
55, Claire. 55.
Oh, I beg your pardon. So incidences, yes, I believe so, actually. Thank you.
Should
Looking
be
at
right,
that. So
yeah.
yes, given it has increased from 7.6 to 8% and it has gone up and it's still marked as green, it probably should be marked as red. What I will do is I will probably, when this comes next time, I will ask our Director of Performance to come, because she will be able to articulate as a statistician in way more eloquently terms as I can, that there'll be an element of increase or decrease that is either deemed statistically significant or not significant. And my gut would say, because that is relatively small increase, that it's not gone to red because the increase hasn't been statistically significant. But I think the best person to explain that to you will probably be Miss Starr, and I'll ask her if she can come next time.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Ellie, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I really welcome page 47 as well. I think for me, it's a case of I don't know what I don't know. And there's some really interesting stats there, but I don't know what, whether they're just the easy to reach stats for you, which is why they've been brought here, or whether there's some themes that run through that. I mean, for example, one thing that you might think would appear on something like this is repeat offences or something like that, and it's not there. I just wondered whether you could describe, why these are the stats that we have in front of us, so that we can kind of understand the context a little bit.
Are you taking that, Claire? Oh, yeah.
So some of them have come from national, because we're asked to track them nationally. So those ones, for example, line 2, where you see in brackets, it's got CSEW, so Crime Survey for England and Wales. They're ones that we're asked to track. We're asked to track nationally. So they've made it into the table because they are part of the national government's strategic policing requirement, for example, or their national metrics that we're asked to track. The rest of them have been selected through a process of being able to identify those metrics through prioritisation. So to do with either the police and crime plan, or as part of conversation, those metrics that are deemed to be most important in conversation with the force. And that's how we've ended up with this suite of metrics. There are, as you would imagine, underneath each one of these headline metrics, a number of sub-metrics for each of the police and crime plan delivery areas. But although when I had a conversation with Ms. Starr about that, that takes us into the realms of kind of 100 different metrics, which she rightly advised me against putting into a table.
Sam?
I don't think I switched mine off. The police do a satisfaction, good or excellent. That seems quite low, 46.6%.
Sorry, can you help me here?
Which line are you
Sorry,
on?
page 47.
And which line is these?
Claire, it's going to be 5 and 6
83.
because I'm looking at the same ones, I think.
So line 5 is the average length of service of a PCSO.
Sorry, I beg your pardon.
6
So,
is staff
6 and 7.
satisfaction. So 6 is staff satisfaction, so that how satisfied staff in the OPCC are with working for the OPCC. And then line 7 is staff satisfaction for the force. So how satisfied officers are in terms of working for Leicestershire Police, and that line's currently blacked out, so you can't see because that's not our figures to bring. So I don't know whether we're still talking about the right lines. So 83, which is scrutiny legitimacy, police do a satisfactory, good or excellent job, which at the moment is 46.6. And this is one of those crime survey of England and Wales where we take their survey outputs. There's an awful lot of questions that are asked as part of that survey. Do a good or excellent or satisfactory job is currently sat at 46.6. The Commissioner's had an awful lot of conversations with the Chief Constable and nationally about levels of trust and confidence. There are lots of different ways of measuring it. We would agree that that is too low. The Chief Constable would agree that's too low. The Commissioner would agree that's too low.
Mr. David.
Looking at the table, everything is in percentage wise, and there's a flow of direction as well as either up, which is quite positive. But in terms of what will be helpful for me and probably other members will be actual figures where we're starting from. So rather than percentage wise, what is the actual figures that these percentages represent? Or maybe have I misread it?
You haven't, and we can do that, but I suppose having maybe Lizzie come and explain this next time might be, because she will almost definitely argue that a percentage will tell you more than an actual figure. But she's much better to explain that to you than me.
I could be on an offence of 2, for example, and we've improved it by 50% or decreasing it down to 1. So without actually seeing the figures, we don't know what improvements they are in real terms. That's just a, yeah.
I kind of take that point, I suppose, and we, you know, with permission, Chair, we toyed with the idea of whether we put the table in or not, because it doesn't matter how much data you provide people with, there's always a request for additional data. We're tracking this in terms of percentages. We'll continue to bring percentages back so that you can have the trend. I think if we ever bring a deep dive paper back into any one of these issues, you'll get to see the actual figures. But there's a limit to the amount of data that we can bring on a regular basis.
Thank you, Claire. And I think I kind of sit in both camps. There is a question about the statistical population. As Mr. David says, if we're talking about going from 2 to 3, it's a very small percentage. Sorry, it's a very small statistical population, but the statistical relevance is actually very high. If you're dealing with 10,000, a move of 1 or 2 is statistically irrelevant. So maybe I think what is encouraging is that the tables generated and prompted conversation and discussion about those performance metrics. Lizzie, yes. Lizzie and I like stats, so it's good. I guess the art will be, if members and panel are happy, is to perhaps look at a couple of the outliers and dig into those if there are any identified. Yeah, this is the first time we've ever seen this. See what it says next time. Start looking at the trends, see what's going on. And I think that's the point for members, if they're happy. We start saying, okay, can we have a bit more data, a bit more background info on that particular one? So Ellie, and then I think Liz.
Thank you, Chair. I just the problem is it's really interesting data, but everyone will want something different from it. Everyone will want to read it differently. My plea would be, I can see that you've got sort of baseline 24, 25, and then you've got the next box, which is a comparison. I'm not quite sure what that is. It says late. I'm not latest. My plea would be that we get to keep that 24-25 data on there, and it accumulates, because in fact actually what it's the longer term trends which I think are interesting. Thank you.
Liz?
Thank you so much for the chart. I really appreciate it. Obviously, you know, it's up to the panel to look and see what areas that there might be a particular risk, but I wonder if it's helped you. Have you identified specific challenges or areas of slow progress that our attention should be particularly drawn to?
So I think that the way that we're using these metrics is to track the impact of the police and crime plan and the deliverables within the police and crime plan, which, as the Commissioner has already outlined, we only started at the 1st of April. So what we are doing is using these metrics on a quarterly basis to look at the trend, which is exactly what you're going to want to look at, to make sure that everything is going in the right direction. What it will help us do within those delivery meetings is look at those outliers that aren't going in the right direction. So at the moment, you can see there are a number of green ones, a number of orange ones, and a number of red ones. Some of the rationale for that will be, given that we only started the police and crime plan in April, some of the activity that we've started hasn't yet had the opportunity to have the impact that we want. But we will keep an extra watching brief on those orange ones and those red ones to make sure that they start going in the right direction. And if they don't, that's why the Commissioner built into this police and crime plan the opportunity to review on an annual basis. So if they don't go in the right direction, that would indicate to us that we've not got the right type of activity in the plan to have the impact that we want. We'll review that activity, we'll go back to the evidence base, and we might change tack in terms of what the Commissioner wants to deliver. Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Thank you. So will future reports include like a clearer section on risks that you've identified and the lessons learned and the next steps?
Yes, they will. We've only had one delivery meeting because we're only doing it quarterly, but yes.
Councillor Butcher.
Page 51, number 30. Can I request some details of the underspends for the future meeting, please?
You can. I think we've brought that previously, but happy to bring it back again.
Hey, panel. So could I just dig in a little bit on the table, please? So the bits that are to number 7 and number 25 are the redacted ones. Yeah. But it's a red rag. So so Claire, you said it's not for the Police Commissioner to report on because it's police data, I'm guessing. But this panel looks to hold the Commissioner to account, to hold the force to account. So this is the only route that the panel has to hold the force indirectly to account. So, you know, the fact that it's red rag and redacted doesn't tell us anything other than it's going in the wrong direction. So I don't know how we overcome that if the police are being sensitive and saying, no, you can't release that data. But actually what we're seeing is the panel who scrutinises the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner who holds the force to account. You've got data present that we can't understand. So I would like some insight, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think what it's telling you is that it's not going in the right direction. But as Police and Crime Commissioner, I am aware it's not going in the right direction. And I will have to ask you to take on trust that I am holding the Chief Constable to account as to why that is the case and what he's going to do about it. But you're quite right. If the Chief Constable doesn't want us to release the data in public, then there's nothing I can do about it. It's not my data to release. What we were trying to do was to show you as much as we can, rather than just not report them at all, so that this panel is aware that they're not going in the right direction. They are aware that I'm aware it's not going in the right direction, and they are aware that I'm asking the Chief Constable to do something about it. But unfortunately, I can't actually tell you what the data is.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. So I think the bit I would add on to that is this is a public scrutiny body. We are live streaming. We are all aware of there's some concerns about trust and respect for the police force, and what is potentially members of the public important information that we can't scrutinise is redacted. So I'm not sure it helps the transparency and trust and respect programme. That's all I would say. I mean, it's up to, as you say, it's up to the force. If they don't release it, they don't want to release it. I think my feedback to the force would be that's not helpful in a trust and transparency arena when we're a public scrutiny panel. So, but that's my opinion, and I'm happy if any of the panel members wish to disagree with that, which would appear not to.
Sorry, Chair, if the panel wants to ask me to ask the Chief Constable, then I will do that. So that, you know, if you like, we've got a paper trail of your request to me to request the Chief Constable if he would really, and I'm perfectly happy to do that. Then we've got a paper trail of what's going on.
That's prompted some questions. I think Mr. Woodywish, your hand went up slightly quicker than Mr. Harris's.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's just that, again, previously we talked about context in these figures. So yes, maybe we have an issue with morale within our own police force, but context, how is that nationally? Is it just the state of policing? So more context when we do get the figures, please.
Claire?
Just on the back of that, in that some of these areas we will be able to do that. A lot of these areas we won't be able to provide that national context because they're not metrics that are tracked nationally. There are only a handful of these that are tracked nationally. The majority are metrics that have been agreed locally because they are important to the Leicestershire and Rutland Police and Crime Plan and the commissioner that's been elected to serve this region. The majority they don't collect it nationally.
Okay, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think you've had some really good requests, but it is, you know, we want open, don't we? I mean, if there's a problem and there's a wheel falling off and people can understand, that's fine. But if it's going to be so secret, and particularly with the titles of how they're reacting and satisfaction and officers' hours saved, I mean, there are crucial things. We ought to be knowing some of this stuff, to be honest. So if you're going to speak to the chief, I'd very much support you on that. And when I meet him, I will explain my thoughts on it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. So if I may, Mr. Matthews, we'll leave that one with you, but I reiterate my concern about transparency, building trust and respect with the force itself. And the first thing we see is a redacted report that tells you, well, we can see it's red, so it's not going well, but we're not going to tell you about it. So I just think in this world of transparency, that is not particularly helpful. But I'll leave that with you and the temporary chief, Mr. Matthews. Any other questions, members? We're happy to note the report. Sorry, Councillor Powell.
Thank you. Just to add to it, sorry if it repeats whatever's been said before, but I agree. It's really good to have this type of table. It does open a lot of things to discuss. I think it's really good if it can just be on one page. It would be really useful. You said some of these figures are available nationally. So if they are, maybe we could have that as a context. The column that says headline something else, to me, doesn't add anything. So maybe we can ditch that column and put in anywhere they've got national statistics. And I think as previous members have asked, a bit more context perhaps around some of those figures and the meaning of those, I think would be useful for future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I've just got one last question for you, Mr. Matthews. So it's bottom of page 49.20. Could you illuminate the 110 body-worn videos being funded, distributed? Could you tell panel a little bit more about that, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so the body-worn videos are, of course, as they say, small video cameras, which can be attached to the clothing of shop workers. So we funded and distributed them. Some of it, I think, has been in the hands of community safety partnerships as to exactly where they go, and elsewhere has been the business improvement districts that have decided which shop gets what. But the idea is to deter crime. I know I keep saying crime prevention is a a golden thread that runs through the police and crime plan, and something I take very seriously. Indicators are that if a shop worker is wearing a body-worn video, anybody who is thinking of getting up to no good is less inclined to steal from a shop. They're certainly less inclined to be abusive or assault a shop worker. So 110 of them have gone out. As always with these things, we do try to monitor what's going on. So they've gone out in Ashby de la Zouch, Leicester, Oadby and Wigston, Loughborough, Hinckley and Melton. As far as I'm aware, they all seem to be working well. As always, of course, we do monitor the impact that these things have, and in due course, I dare say, we'll get some sort of a report back as to how the shop staff feel they've gone, whether there has been an impact on crime figures in the areas where they've been distributed. But as with all these things, of course, only really work if people remember to put them on, which is very often an Achilles heel at these things. But at the moment, the system is that we are picking up the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner is picking up the costs. But after 2 years, it will be down to the shops to decide. They've had them for 2 years. Do they think they're worth the money? If so, they will take over the cost. And if they think they haven't been worth the money, we will respect that decision and we will not be funding them any further, but we may be distributing them elsewhere, perhaps to somebody else who might think they're more use or have a better idea of how to use them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So my supplementary then to that is, so if you've got 50 outlets of whichever form they are, daytime trade, shop, retail, pub retail, hotels, whatever it is, and there's 25 cameras, is there any evidence that says it just pushes this crime elsewhere to the shops that don't have body-worn cameras? Mr. Matthews.
I'm not aware of any data that says that. My chief executive may be. However, I would push back about that, because if that is the case, that is not making the case for saying those 25 shops shouldn't have body-worn video. It's making the case that the other 25 shops should as well. So it might be something to take into consideration when planning for the future, but I don't think just because a problem's pushed on elsewhere, it doesn't necessarily mean you should stop doing the activity that pushes it elsewhere. It's then a matter of looking at the elsewhere and deciding what you can do there to try and stop it there as well.
Absolutely, Mr. Matthews. I was exploring the deterrent factor. And then the next question would be, sorry, panel, I'm hogging this a little bit, is so there's video evidence, and the police prepared to act on that video evidence?
Privileges of office, Chair, is you're allowed to ask as many questions as you like. The evidence goes to the police, but of course it's up to the investigating officer whether, in the opinion of the investigating officer, there is enough evidence to take to the Crown Prosecution Service, and then it's up to the Crown Prosecution Service if they think there's enough evidence to launch a prosecution. It's not up to me if in any individual case a prosecution is launched. But yes, the evidence from the body-worn videos does get fed into the system, and then it's up to the various players within the system to make a decision.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. So all I would ask with panel's approval is that at perhaps the next meeting, you are able to bring some evidence of what's actually happening with that video data. Claire?
Just given that some of those cameras won't be up and running because we're going through with the CSPs or the shops just signing up for their cloud, maybe the meeting after that, or even giving it 6 months and getting some data to bring back would be helpful. That's okay.
Absolutely fine. Thank you, Claire. You can only bring information when it's available. Councillor Butcher.
We found it quite a lot of the national shops won't get involved with the body cams because it's one of their rules. So ours have ended up with Pub Watch for the pubs nighttime economy, where they could make their own decisions really, because you know, the landlords, and I I thought it was after a year that they had to sign up. I could be wrong, but I thought it was a year, which 2 years. That's okay then. But yeah, so I think the footage that you get off it was compatible with the police taking it off. So that was good, but it was just disappointing that the a lot of the shops wouldn't get involved with that.
Well, Chair, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make him drink. We can provide the facility, but if shops or chains of shops don't want to get involved, nothing we can do to force them.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. I think a couple of meetings from now then, Claire, if you can bring something back to us about, just so I've got a feel for what value they have. It is public money, and let's have a look at cause and effects and impacts. So thank you very much. Ellie?
Yeah, I mean, it's already part of what Les has said, but actually just understanding what they are best used for. Because actually, I can imagine that picking up a individual shop theft being quite difficult from a body cam, but making a lone worker feel safe in their environment, it could be incredibly effective. So I just think it's about, you know, are we targeting? Are we using it for what it delivers best?
Thank you, Ellie. Mr. Lloyd.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Obviously, we've got some, and we're in the process of negotiating them. But I understand it from my officer that there's some technical issues around the cameras which we're having to deal with before we can distribute them. So that's being dealt with as we speak. Secondly, you can gather the information, got it on camera, there it is. But then it's the value of the items that are being stolen. I believe because they had this £200 barrier, anything under that they won't investigate anyway. So we could be ending up with some false information or information that says we've got the data. Are the police going to take it forward and are they going to be prosecuted? Because they look at it, because I keep bringing it up at my meeting, they look at it from the point of view of value for money. Do we spend time on those or do we spend time on burglary and more serious crime? So there is different issues or different thoughts throughout the county with regards to, nice to get the evidence, there it is, but then what is the outcome of it? The outcome is zero, then we're wasting a lot of time trying to gather the information if they've not got the powers to, or they won't move it forward and prosecute in the first place. Easier said than done. I appreciate, having been in that system for several years, I can understand the possible problems. But if they've got the mindset to say, well, it's that value, the council's going to hold it and say, don't investigate that because the cost is outweighing the value of the property. Is that still going to be the case?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is something that has come up elsewhere, and I would like to assure the public through you at this panel and the recording and so on that's going on that £200 limit does not apply in Leicestershire and Rutland at all. Every crime is assessed on its merits. I would imagine that rather more effort would go into trying to solve a £1 million theft than a £1 theft. So the value of items stolen, no doubt, is a factor in deciding what effort to go in. But if there has been the theft of an item worth £1 or even 1 penny, if the evidence is there to prosecute, then the Leicestershire Police will take it to the Crown Prosecution Service to be prosecuted. Whether the Crown Prosecution take it on, whether the person is found guilty at trial and so on, is another matter. But as far as the Leicestershire Police are concerned, there is no bottom limit on what they will investigate and what will they prosecute. They will look at every case on its merits. What is the evidence that is available? And do they feel that the investigation will result in a prosecution? That is the sole criteria. And I wanted to make it clear, if I may, Chair, to the public through you. I know what you say may be the case elsewhere. In Leicestershire, it is not the case. The police will investigate every crime. They will explore all reasonable lines of inquiry. And if a prosecution is possible, they will prosecute. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. And I think, picking up on Mr. Lloyd's comment, I know one of them has changed position, certain retail chains who are advising their staff not to report if it was less than 200 quid. I know one particular change where the police have worked with that particular retailer, and they've changed position on that, so they do report lower level crimes. So we live in hope and confidence, but if you can bring that impact assessment in 2 meetings time or thereabouts, that would be wonderful, and we can see what value your body worn cameras are paying to the public. So any other questions? I'm happy to note the report. Note the report. Thank you, everybody. So agenda item 8 is a report on road safety, which is always close to the elected representative's heart. Pages 53 to 62 in your pack. And it's you again, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Just as well, there isn't actually a spotlight here, or I might begin to wonder what's going on. Yes, thank you. Well, again, I will start by paying tribute to Mr. Powell in my office, who has pulled this report together. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. I would like to praise the Leicestershire Police for the actions that are laid out about the initiatives they've been following. In particular, if I may, the school-based initiatives. Young lives are valuable. It is, of course, inevitably the case that younger people have less experience of road sense and of the dangers that roads can present. So I think it's very important to get into schools and to run projects there. I'll highlight the community action programme at the end, which is, as members of this panel know, a new initiative that I and my office have started in the past few months, but we are hoping it will be able to achieve good results, even though sometimes the publicity about road safety is not always easy to track back when an accident hasn't happened, what it was that caused that accident not to happen. But the more publicity we can get about good road sense and educating people in how to use the roads, I think, for the better. The other thing I think I would flag, just because this is something that's brought up with me frequently, and I'm sure the councillors here may have the same, is about the illegal e-vehicles, e-scooters and those e-bikes which have been illegally modified. I'm very pleased to be able to report to you through this report that 465 have been seized in Leicester City. This is Operation Pedal Fast, which began in the city of Leicester. It's now been rolled out to Charnwood, and I'm very much hoping to see it being used elsewhere. I must admit, when it comes to e-scooters and so on, I'm in two minds, because they're environmentally friendly, they're very convenient, they're very useful, so they should be, if handled properly, an asset to society. It's unfortunate that very often they're not an asset to society because of the way they are used, and I would, again, voice the opinion, I'm sure I've said here several times, but I wish the government would get its act together and get the necessary legislation to regulate the use of these e-vehicles so that they can become a safe asset to society, whereas at the moment, all too often they're not. But that said, I commend the report to this panel, and as always, if there are any questions, either I or my chief executive will happily pitch in. I've forgotten something, which is why my chief executive wants to remind me of something I've forgotten. Claire.
No, just to mention to the panel that at paragraph 23, the Leicestershire Police wanted us just to make sure that we pointed out that the activity contained within that table, a lot of that is done in collaboration with the wider partnership rather than just solely by Leicestershire Police. And then many apologies from my office, but the graph at the end of that report, the two graphs, one of them is incorrect. So panel have got an update page on their desks that gives them the correct data and the correct graphs. So if any questions could be pointed to those graphs rather than the ones in the report, that would be very helpful.
So just while you've got the stage and you've just talked about your graphs, would you like to just clarify for the panel what the graphs are and the twin axis?
Yep, so the graphs that you've got in front of you, so you've got one graph that tells you about the number of total casualties on the roads nationally and in Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. So that is the top graph. and you will see that you've got a left-hand axis that gives you the national numbers and the right-hand axis that gives you the Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland numbers. So for example, if we are talking about all casualties in 2024, you'll see that the national axis tells you there's been somewhere in the region of 130,000, and the local axis will tell you there's been somewhere in the region of 1,500. And then the bottom graph tells you, so KSI stands for the number of people killed or seriously injured on the roads. Again, if you take 2024, you'll see the left-hand axis tells you that there have been just under 30,000 killed and seriously injured. And for the local numbers, there's been somewhere in the region of 400 killed and seriously injured.
Thank you, Claire. Microphone, Mr. Matthews.
Oh, my apologies.
Right, just before I open up to the panel, because you've mentioned e-bikes, e-scooters, and it is a recurring theme, and you're absolutely right. We need the government, whichever political rainbow it is, to normalise and regularise them so the police actually know, and indeed members of the public actually know. But as it sits today, e-scooters on the Queen's Highway are illegal. E-bikes are not illegal, provided they've not been modified to ride above 15 miles an hour. So I think for members of the public, it is highly confusing. I personally would not want to be on the receiving end of being on an e-bike or an e-scooter and coming into contact with a moving vehicle without a crash helmet on. But that's me personally. It is the recurring challenge, e-bikes, e-scooters. It is down to government. But apart from that, for the road safety report, questions from the panel. Mr. Woodies.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, on e-bikes, just congratulations. They've actually been eliminated from Harborough. But I would ask the Commissioner, are you aware of any change in the police's stance on this? Because when we asked over a year ago, they said it's impossible to stop them, and now they've managed to basically rid them from the streets.
Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. This is down to tactics, I think. So an e-bike can travel faster than the police officer can run after it. And when I've been out with the teams that do this, they choose the location very carefully. This is why it is so resource intensive to do it, because you need a uniformed police officer to do the stop. Wanted officer has the power to stop somebody and ask for their details and so on. But of course, if someone's belting along on an e-scooter, as soon as they see a police uniform, they either change direction or hop off and push it. And so what you need is a number of plainclothes spotters. You need it to be in a geographical location where once somebody on an e-scooter has been spotted, it is possible to block their exit with uniformed officers, so you're not in the matter of chasing after them. You can get in front of them and stop it. I'm not an expert in exactly the layout that you need in order to do this, nor how many officers or how many plainclothes officers you need. But it is a resource-intensive operation to do. When it's done properly, it can have a very salutary effect. And I think it's also worth mentioning that when people are stopped for using e-vehicles illegally, it is not unknown for them to be doing other things that are illegal at the same time as illegally riding an e-scooter or an illegal e-bike. I mean, certainly when I was out with them, they found that one young gentleman was also carrying a relatively large quantity of drugs. Another gentleman was working, who was an immigrant, was working without permission to work in this country. And a third gentleman was actually wanted by the police from another county, and so he was immediately arrested and put on his way. So they are very useful operations to run, but they are very resource intensive operations to run and can only be done in certain geographical locations. I think what has changed is that the police in Leicestershire have got rather more adept at running what is quite a complicated operation to run. They were begun in the city of Leicester in 2 locations. They're now more than that in the city of Leicester, and as you know, are being done elsewhere. I'm not sure it's the attitude, it's the experience and the expertise which has changed, I think.
Thank you. Mr. Lloydell?
Again, thank you, Chair. Again, I know at our residents' forums, Oby Wixton and South Wixton, this is a big issue for them. And it's always an agenda item on my meetings, SP meetings. And again, it seems that there's various attitudes towards how they're going to deal with it. Very difficult. I know the resource implications with regards to trying to do this. I know exactly how it works. It is, but when it is brought up, I feel sorry for the police, because if you want the confidence in the police, every time they're out there and people challenge them with regards to this sort of thing, they say they can't do anything. And you say, what do you think of the police? And they say, not very good, because and it's not fair to them to be in that position. It isn't. But equally, it's again the attitude towards different areas where mine, it's again coming back to too resource intensive, therefore we want to concentrate on burglaries and everything else, more serious crime rather than that. And I keep saying, well, that's fine, but then it comes up time and time again at each one of those forums. But the poor old police officers are being challenged about it, but say they can't do anything. So I think for me, it's leadership. It's about leadership for me. The leadership have got to get their act together and come up with a proposal to say, this is what we're going to do about it. Not, we can't do anything about it, full stop, because I don't think then the value of the police officer is devalued in that case. So I share that with you, because hopefully the acting police chief constable, because you're asking him, what value does he put on community safety partnerships? Because it's deteriorated quite significantly, in my opinion, having been there for such a time. And it's not the police on the beat, brilliant job, but unfortunately they're the face of it and they get the brunt of it. I'll leave that in your capable hands. The other one, if I may, Chairman, is schools. I don't know whether you've experienced it. I have. Schools, parents coming on e-bikes, picking the kids up, put the kids in it, and off they go. I've worked with 2 schools now because of what I do in the past, and I make it quite clear to them that they are responsible for allowing them onto the site. If they're picking the children up on that scooter, there's a safeguarding issue that kicks in, because you're allowing it to happen on your site, and the Occupiers Liability Act says you are responsible. So it's coming back to what you say on the Chartier Schools Input Foundations, whether or not, from a county point of view, that something could be included in that to protect the schools from any litigation that might be forthcoming, because they will eventually be prosecuted because they've allowed it out. But do anything be done about that to get the message across? I'll be guided. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lloydell. And just before I bring in Councillor Butchert, so I've actually got schools written here. So I think the question to come back is, with respect to what people think about e-scooters, they are increasing in popularity. And actually, should we be looking at a school education programme, whether it's through the CSPs, whether it's youth outreach, whether it's through the police force? Because actually getting kids to put a helmet on, wear some bright clothes and high-vis and not dark clothes and no lights would be really helpful. And we're about to start seeing the autumn, night turn early. So maybe that's something you can take back to discuss internally or with the police force. So, Councillor Butcher.
Thank you. What has led you to choose the places that you have done the community days with the e-scooters?
Thank you. The community days are sort of done on a rota by my staff, and they keep a track of where I go, because I think it's really important that I, as Police and Crime Commissioner, do visit all the different communities across our city and 2 counties. What I do when I get there is very much in the hands of what's going on in that area. So let's say that e-scooters are not a problem, perhaps in Crowston Kerrial. So if I go to Crowston Kerrial, I won't talk about e-scooters, but I will go to Crowston Kerrial because it's time I went to that part of the Melton Borough area, because I hadn't been there for a while. So like I say, where I go is in the hands of my staff. My instructions to them are to make sure that on a rolling programme, I get round all the areas and all the communities of our city and 2 counties. And also that I get to meet as wide a variety of types of person, if I can put it that way. So that, you know, if 1 week I'm talking primarily to the business community, then perhaps the following week I should be talking to members of faith communities, and then I should be talking to young people or elderly people or whatever. So it's the staff that then decide where I'm going. And of course, once I'm going Crowston, Carrion, let's say it's my turn to talk to elderly people, then it's going to be what are they concerned about, rather than me turning up and saying, right, I want to talk to you all about e-scooters or burglaries or, you know, road safety or whatever it is. Because the whole point of staying in touch with the community is for the community to set the agenda so that I know what is bothering the community. So I suppose the answer to your question is how long's a bit of string. I don't know if my chief executive wants to do detail, but
Not necessarily detail on that, unless I heard the councillor incorrectly. I think the question was, how are the locations selected for op pedal fast?
Yeah.
Thank you. I apologise. I thought you were asking me about it. That's down to the police. As I mentioned earlier, it has to be a location where the combination of uniformed officers and ununiformed plainclothes spotters will work, where it is possible to corral the e-scooter and e-bike users, that they can't just disappear off at high speed. I'm not aware of exactly what the criteria are that the police officers to look for. I know it's to do with that. I suppose we could ask, but, you know, on the other hand, you want these people that are flying around on e-scooters to know which areas to avoid, because that might be where the police are. I suppose we can ask, but the police may decide not to tell us.
And I think a lot of it will be based on, as it always is in policing, as we understand from the Chief Constable, to do with the kind of the threat, risk and harm. So it will depend on the prevalence in local areas, whether that local areas, as the Police and Crime Commissioner has just outlined, has got the right physical characteristics to be able to carry out the type of tactics that they need to be able to run an operation.
Thank you. Councillor McLeany.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, road safety is a big issue in all of our communities, and everyone will regularly be contacted about concerns about particularly speeding and other issues on local roads. From a Hinckley perspective, one such example is the Normandy Way, where I'm regularly contacted about speeding on that road. Sadly, there have been accidents, including tragically some fatal accidents, and obviously that causes a huge amount of anxiety to people living nearby. One of the constant suggestions that I get from residents is for there to be speed cameras on the road, and I have taken this up on a number of occasions, and each time it's basically said that that's not possible. So I'm just wondering whether around the whole rules and thresholds for speed cameras, whether they could be looked at, because there's certainly a demand on that road, for example, from local residents, that it would make them feel safer if there were those sort of preventative measures on the roads. But whenever they're sort of asked for, the answer is always no.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I know the threshold for these speed cameras and so on, and I remember when I was a councillor in London, I kept running up against the same thing. So it's to do with sight lines, it's to do with having a convenient location to put a camera and so on. I believe the guidelines are set nationally, and so even if I or the Chief Constable or indeed your council wanted to change them, it's not possible to do so. Why your particular road, Normandy Way, isn't suitable to have a speed camera on, I'm afraid I don't know. It might be worth asking why, because if there is just something about the road which makes it unsuitable, which is relatively easy to put right, then perhaps it can be done. But if it's something that's absolutely to do with the layout of the road and so on, then probably not. But I think the guidelines you're talking to are set nationally, and so it's not really within our power to change them. Sorry.
Councillor David.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you for the report. Bring your attention to page 56, APNR and Fatal 4. I think there's my reading of it is going to be a pilot going to be launched next year of it. And I'm just trying to understand in terms of a couple of questions that you may not be able to answer or later, but in terms of the aim of it, I'm just trying to get clear on what it actually is. Secondly, there's on it says some data sharing as well across agencies. It includes insurers, DVLA, and local authorities. So there's lots of data there, and how we're going to manage that. Also, on point 22, strengthens data-informed policing and resource allocation in high-risk areas. How will that be done? And what do you mean by making enforcement efforts more strategic? And finally, on D, is which agencies will be involved in this collaboration? And obviously, how long will this be for? And one other, if you may, in the report, there's also mention of, I'm not sure if that's an error or something, the community action program. Is that a road related issue, or is it specifically different? On page 59, page 27, everything is road related, but I'm not sure why this is there.
Mr. Matthews, there's a few questions for you.
I'll do my best, Chair. Okay, as regards the information on page 56, is to find out the answers to the councillor's questions that we're undertaking the project. So I think the answer is I'll come back later, by which time hopefully we'll have found out the answer to your questions, because they're perfectly all valid questions, but the whole point of the project is to try and find out. The community action programme has come to this panel before. Basically, it's trying to find a way to enable individuals and groups within community, be it maybe parish councils or neighbourhood watch groups, or like I say, individuals, to give them advice on how they can help their community themselves in ways that are relatively low cost, relatively low effort, but which the data shows can have beneficial effects. It's going to roll over a number of different subjects over the course of the coming years, all of them based on the police and crime plan. So yes, there is going to be a session, if you like, a few months when it's concentrating on road safety, but it will be looking at a number of other things as well. So it will look at road safety, but it won't only look at road safety. It will look at road safety for a while. Advice will be given to various bodies. A small number of grants will also be available for particularly good projects, but then it will move on to other important policy areas within the police and crime plan.
Answered all your questions, Mr. Dowd?
Yes, I'll wait for that report. Yeah.
Microphone, please. Thank you. So I'm going to ask a question, Mr. Matthews. You may wish to be quite cautious how you answer that. So again, the AMPRs, call it 17, 18. As part of the capital programme, provision for the rolling out of automatic AMPRs has been included by the PCC. To be used by whom and where?
To be used by the force, sometimes in static locations and sometimes mounted within their cars.
That's fine. I was just curious because it doesn't say. I was just curious where you're going to, like, you know, we all like to see the road safety initiatives. You might be putting them on lampposts, I don't know. And then just before I bring other members in, I've got one. I think there seems to be a bit of the paragraph missing, unless I've missed something. It's page 55. I'm going to direct it to Claire, if I may. 8 at the very top. It just says, PC requests a conversation with the Chief Constable on the forces activity to crack down on the illegal use of vehicles and e-bikes to ensure that activity
It's reducing.
Thank you. Mr. Woodman, I think you had your hand.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just turn to page 61. So Castle Darlington's been blighted with car cruising for many years, and we've had a PSPO in place for a few years, and we've been issuing fines through the council. Just noted that you had a meeting with residents in September. I was wondering if there's anything come out of that that might be of interest to the people of Donington.
Mr. Matthew. Thank you, Chair. Well, I haven't got it with me. I'm happy to write to the councillor on this. He is quite right. Castle Donington has suffered from car cruising or boy racers or whatever you want to call it, off and on for some time. It is a problem that comes and goes, and as I'm sure the councillor is aware, many of the miscreants who engage in this activity will travel quite a long distance to do so. I understand that the Leicestershire police stopped one person who had come down from Scotland in order to indulge in this activity on the A6 a few months ago. And so it's a highly mobile thing. There are some local people involved, but they also move all over the place. And Castle Donington is one of those places where it will be a problem. The police take action. Those who indulge in car cruisers will then avoid Castle Donington for a while and then come back again. I mean, I'm sure I can write to the council with more detail. What came out of that particular meeting was about one particular road and the frequency with which cars speed a little race along it. It's not just somebody going a little bit over the speed limit. These are cars who are racing. But also there were a number of concerns expressed about people who were visiting that road for the purposes of plane spotting and then parking inconsiderately, shall we say, or dangerously, which were also causing other problems. So it was about car cruising, but other items came up as well, which the local police commander is seeking to deal with and to find ways to get around that. I believe he's also in conversation with the airport authorities over not viewing platforms, but the safe viewing areas for those who want to do this sort of thing. So I'm sorry, Chair, I don't have all the information with me at the moment, but I'm happy to dig it out and write to the councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Yes, car cruising. I'm personally confident that the police are, trying to think of some really useful words without giving the game away. I use the old phrase, on it, and are aware of all the challenges and logistics, and there are ways of addressing it. So I think, was it you, Mr. Wood, who said hand up?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, this report is quite wide in scope, so obviously it stimulated a lot of conversation, so congratulations on that. I, funnily enough, did have a formal question I wanted to ask before I knew this was on the agenda, and which Michael has pretty much covered most of it. But I'll just read it out as I wrote it. So I've heard from many parishes that they struggle with speeding through their communities and find it difficult to engage with the police over this. What is the APCC doing to help police deliver a structured approach to engaging with the parishes over speeding issues, including codifying the evidence they need to collect and how it should be collected and what the threshold for police action will be? So we have parishes that have put up NVASs. They've recorded 78 and 30-mile-an-hour zones and things like this, and they do not get a satisfactory response, and they really don't know what their next steps are. And I think what we've kind of alluded to is it's always a step into the dark. You don't know what you need to do to achieve getting speed cameras into your area. So is there something you can do to help formalise this and engage with the parishes and let them know what they can actually do to basically make their community safer, and then I have a few clarifying questions as well.
Mr. Matthews.
I think my immediate reaction to this is that parish councils should contact the Road Safety Partnership in the first instance, because a lot of the activity that would improve road safety in villages is the Road Safety Partnership's responsibility. So I think in the first instance, contact them and see what they say. As regards the police and their liaison with parishes and parish councils, having been a parish councillor before I moved earlier this year, I would agree with you that it's a bit patchy. Sometimes it's very good, sometimes it's not so good. And if there were a structure to this, I think it would be a benefit. But I think my immediate reaction in the first instance is talk to the Road Safety Partnership, because it's really their job.
Can I just make a request on the back of that? Because part of the community action programme, so part of having a road safety theme of the community action programme will be to provide advice out to those local communities who are trying to make a difference within their parishes. So parish councils are one of our targeted audience, for example. So if there are a number of questions that we know a number of parishes are asking and not getting answers to, it'd be really helpful for us to receive those questions. We can build that into the material that we then will be sending out to all parish councils across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. Because if you've got parishes that are asking some questions and there are parishes over here asking some questions, it's almost definite that the majority of parishes will want to ask the same questions. And if we can answer those with the information that we're going to send out in a month or so's time, that would be really helpful to receive those.
Thank you. Yeah. Cool. Can I just ask my clarification questions now? So with ANPR on point 17, much like self-chair, you didn't either say what kind of ANPR. So is this just identifying vehicles that are not licensed, not MOT'd, or is this ANPR for speeding? Because obviously you mentioned it's in cars and mobile. On 25, you said sort of like safety cameras for schools. Now, I have spoken to a couple of schools who have attempted to go through this process. And again, is there a framework to engage? Because they've been told firmly, no, they can't have safety cameras because, and I quote what was told to me, whether this is accurate or not, once they've gone up, people are aware of them. They then don't issue any fines. They don't pay for themselves, so they're not financially viable. So I don't know if that is a thing or just something somebody's made up. So again, it's a framework. How do schools engage with this process? What evidence do they need to collect? And then how do we implement that? Then, oh, sorry, I did have a whole list here and some of them been partially I won't bother with that. That's been done. So if you just address those two, and then I'll just see what's.
Thank you, Chair. I think the easy answer is I'm not quite sure. My personal view is that if putting up a speed camera stops people speeding along that stretch of road, then it's done its job. The purpose of speed cameras is not to collect fines. The purpose of speed cameras is to make people obey the law and drive safely. I know I keep coming back to it, but prevention is better than cure. Prevention is a golden thread running through the police and crime plan, yada, yada. I don't know if that is the reason. If that is the reason, then it's the wrong reason, and I would argue against it. As for ANPR, my understanding is that they're linked to the DVLC in, I think it's still in Swansea, isn't it? And so it doesn't just read the number plate, which of course can be very useful for all sorts of purposes, but it will immediately flash up, this car has got no insurance, this car has got no MOT, and then the police can take action immediately. That's my understanding. If that's wrong, I'm sure the Chief Executive will find out and we will write to you in due course, but I understand that is the case.
No, that is the case. And so the mobile ones that are mounted in cars as the police officers are driving around, it just helps them identify whether a vehicle is stolen and has no insurance. And just like e-bikes and e-scooters that we've discussed earlier, often the police seem to find that if a car has no insurance, then that is linked to other elements of criminality.
Thank you, Claire. Mr. Matthews.
Thank you.
Liz.
So I found my last 2 points that are still relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Woodward.
Bit at the end. Yeah, so on the auto speed watch, which kind of segments into this, how are you selecting the sites for number 36? So where are these actually happening? And obviously local authorities don't seem to be aware of this. So as a Harbour District Council, we're not really aware.
My Chief Executive will correct me if I'm wrong. I think this was a couple of parishes in Rutland who wanted to do it. But because there are as always with these things, there are all various ramifications and knock-on effects. So we're looking at a trial period, but it was because they wanted to do it, not because we went to them and said, here, you, Will you do it? So the initiative came from the parish councils. We're happy to support a trial, and then we'll see what comes out of the trial.
So just to come back on that then, so that doesn't that segment into the parishes that I've been speaking to who want speed cameras, if they could actually participate in this? Is that they're asking to have some mechanism for recording and penalising, I guess?
I think the cautious approach, Chair, is to say we will await the outcome of the trial and see how it goes, and then report to this panel, and then of course the councillor can pass it on, and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you both. Liz.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of questions, if I may, but I'll start with the one on Vision Zero ambition, which is page 61, paragraph 43. I wasn't aware of Vision Zero, so I went and did my homework, as you might expect. And I can see how it would fit in with your prevention type approach to it. I noted that one of the core principles was a shared responsibility, not just of drivers, but road designers, police, local authority, etc. And it very much, links in. We've got districts that are forming their local plans currently. They're also forming design plans alongside those, which I would think would be an ideal place to feed in about safety. What steps are you doing to make contact with those to get the Vision Zero thing, or is it just we'd like Vision Zero? Thank you very much.
Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Well, we would like Vision Zero. I think it's fair to say that many of the roads in the city in two counties were designed and built before there were motor cars, never mind before there were motor cars as large and powerful as is more common these days compared to maybe in the 1950s and 60s. I'm going to turn to our chief executive on this one, because I don't think it is a duty of the OPCC to coordinate all this work as opposed to publicising it. But so, Claire?
So it's different in different areas in terms of how it's led. I think the commissioner has kind of said he'd love to work towards a mission of Vision Zero. It's getting all of those partners to work together. We would really like to engage with the road safety partnership more, because I think if there is going to be a Vision Zero pledge, those authorities that you've just named in terms of local authorities and the highways authorities and all those kind of areas are represented on that road safety partnership. That would be the natural place for this to sit, which I know the commissioner would love to attend and pitch his ideas for going for Vision Zero.
So not just the road safety partnership, but highways perhaps, and the other things. I think it's really important that there are sort of concrete steps that are taken towards it, rather than just we hope that Vision Zero comes to pass. But anyway, moving on. On the driver education and behavioural change on page 59, paragraph 25, but also bringing in the younger person's pathway driving experience as well. Have we got a record? Are we monitoring, in fact, what behavioural change happens as a result of these, or is it just you've been caught speeding, sit through this workshop and off you go again? And particularly with the younger persons one, I'm quite concerned that there are actually relatively few younger people who parents are able to take a whole week off work to go to this workshop with them, whose car insurance covers them to do the workshop. Are we actually monitoring that this is producing behavioural change, or is it just a nice workshop to go on?
I'll leave my chief executive to answer some of that. It may be, I suppose, stating the blindingly obvious, but it is those young people who have parents with cars who can afford to insure it for the young person, who tend to be the ones who are driving, and therefore the ones who get involved in accidents. And so they are the ones that need to be educated. And so many young people, I mean, certainly myself, I didn't have a car when I was 17. And it's those that do who most need the course. As for the other detail, I don't know whether Claire knows the answer.
So the items that are in the table are items that are run by Leicester Police in collaboration with other partners. So those in terms of monitoring the effectiveness of those, we would have to go to those other partners or to Leicester Police. The only one that we commission directly is the Pathfinder Young Driver, and we do monitor participation and we have effectiveness measures as part of that. But given that it's not finished yet, we haven't done that final kind of evaluation. That sits with our commissioning team to do in due course.
Right. Miss Lloyd.
Where you go just about to wind that up.
I was going to have my last brief, but I'll have to give Miss Lloyd.
I'm going to bore you now to death. It is. I can. It is. One or two things, if I may, very quickly. The process from a speeding point of view, come back to your point, there is a process in place and it's in writing. You'll get that from the speed watch people at Police HQ. As I've said before, I've been on it, I've done it, been out with them, and the process is quite succinct. So that will help you with regards to your parish councils and how they deal with it. If that helps. Speed cameras, you've got ANPR, which you mentioned, but you mentioned putting them in cars. It's a capital formula that you propose to do it with. Should not the police be paying for the car ones through their capital rather than through yours? NPR can understand it. From a CSP a few years ago, we bought 3 lots of NPR one and we sited them around the borough. They're old now, so they probably need changing. And so I think that perhaps maybe you should rethink that, because it's all through from this. It's your capital program that you might be buying them through. But the NPR for cars is a police car. That should be a police precept, not yours, I would have thought. So I'll just share that with you. Aspect 1, meetings, your meetings, which are important to you, I understand that. But when I looked at the graph, coming back to the point made over there, do you actually inform the local authority that you're going into their area just to do things? I know we've met on 3 or 4 occasions, but equally we find out by stealth that you've been in somewhere else and talked to a load of residents and everything else, and then it comes back to me or to my, did you know that? And they said they're going to do X. And I said, well, I don't know anything about it. Which somewhat defeats the object because it's not supporting you in some of the things that they come up with. What you're doing, you haven't got any control over, but the local authorities have. So would it be helpful, not all the time, I accept that if the local authorities know about it and they say, well, we'll join you as a partnership because you support the partnerships fully, that it might contribute towards what you're trying to achieve in that community. I'll just share that with you if that happens. I said I'd bring this up, enforcement. You mentioned some time ago about 2-tier policing. I have some sympathy with you with regards to enforcement, parking enforcement, etc. Having a long conversation with the local people, but again, it comes back to this confidence bit that police and I get contacted to say double parking, off-street parking, all sorts of parking that they get, and they say nothing to do with me. It's now through the civil enforcement, which is the traffic wardens. Some things that the police can do, obstruction is to get it moved, but most of it then say to them, no, we can't do anything about that, civil enforcement. How do we get in touch with them to get them to do something? I tell you what, you can't. I've tried it now several times actually at our meetings to say, can we have somebody to talk to us about that? Because we need to be, because a lot of it is in the evening. I've been out so many times in the evening to look at and take pictures and photos. I've even sent stuff here through to County Hall, which is just the criticism of viewing, I think. I don't get replies. I've got their numbers, but I don't get replies. So it has to be kicked upstairs further. Because of this 2-tier policing, because you've got the traffic wardens, you've got the police. Police, again, sadly, are in the front line. It's them that they see, and it's them who get punished for it. So again, it comes back to satisfaction bit. They say, well, no, because they don't do anything about parking. And it's unfair. So this is where you have to kick it upstairs. Surely it's now going to be better. There's an opportunity now under the devolution programme to say, let's bring that back into the police along with the resources So the police have, like they used to have, the powers to deal with it straight away, rather than this two-tier system that doesn't work. Certainly doesn't work. I said that's going to be kicked further up, but it's something as it suggests here. Would the panel like to make any recommendations to you with any other related matters? And I'm trying to ask you if that's something that could be taken up seriously. The opportunity of devolution to say, bring it back into the police force resources as well, so that we don't get this two-tier policing within this environment. That's it. I won't bore you any further.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Lloyd. You didn't bore me one moment because it's all good stuff. And I think I'm just wondering because there's so many different touch points to do with road safety. And it is a confused landscape. Civil enforcement officers are county council responsibility. I think they're actually hosted over in Harborough, if memory serves me. But there are very few of them to cover the entire county. So I'm actually just wondering, Mr. Matthews. So as you're aware, we have a task and finish running it at the moment, and I certainly don't want to cut that one short. We are hopefully going to come out with some really interesting stuff on the back end of that one. But I just wonder, because as colleagues have been talking, I've been making little notes here. So the one that drives me up the wall is the ACPO 85th percentile. So we've all come across the 85th percentile. If it doesn't breach it, nobody's interested. Well, that's fine. But if it's at the 84th percentile or the 83rd, it's still flipping dangerous. So I think that's a police matter. That's the ACPO. So we and for members of the public who may be listening, the Association of Chief Police Officers. Roll back the clock. Mr. Pickles removed the ability, and we've got some downstairs here still, I believe, of civil enforcement cameras on cars. And he banned them actually going around and getting number plates and issuing penalties to people. So that would be something you can lobby for to bring back into government. That actually says, last time I was here, there's still 2 cars at least with cameras on down here that can't be used for what they were purchased for. School streets, I'm a huge fan of school streets, but logistically they're difficult to administer. And maybe we could look at doing that differently. Yeah, we just need to, maybe, is there an opportunity panel, Mr. Matthews, Claire, to reach wider as a collective into the collective concerns about road safety? Who's responsible for what? Who does what? Where the frustrations are? And is there any way that we can all work together to improve the mechanism that we actually have? So probably not one for today, but it just seems to me that maybe we actually need to look collectively across all those various agencies and authorities as to what can we do together with all the various opportunities to improve road safety across, LLR. So I'll leave that one with members to think about and Mr. Matthews and Claire to think about. So any other questions for Mr. Matthews on road safety? Everybody happy to Mike, Kevin?
Sorry, again, because a lot of the road safety and everything else, there's an highway issue here, because whatever happens, whatever data you get, whatever evidence you can produce, then goes to the highways to say, right, can you do something about it? And this answer is no, because I've got no money. So would it not be useful to support the police crime commission, invite highways, head of highways, to a meeting here so that we can get what you've just said from the horse's mouth, as it were? I'll just share that with you.
I think, Mr. Lloyd, I think it's one for us all to take away at the minute. I think we're all part of the CSPs as very valuable statutory agencies. It just seems to me, because we're all parishes, we're all districts, or counties, or whatever it is, cities, and we consistently raise concerns about road safety and the inability or the ineffectiveness of the relevant authority to actually deal with it in our area. You know, I'm a great fan of completely randomised blitz. You know, so when Mr. Wood was the same as me, raising issues about parishes, blitz it, completely randomised. But that's another story. That's a much bigger question. So I do wonder if there's something for us to just think about, take away, and maybe bring back another day to see how we can take forward. So, Mr. Woodward.
Sorry, just wondering if I can ask a completely tangential but slightly related to road safety question. When road safety fails and cars crash through hedges, is there anything we can do to encourage the police not to put the tape around them? Just stick a police aware sticker on there, because when the car's taken away, the tape remains and it's just litter in the environment.
I'm fairly certain that's going to be somebody, an outsourced body that they commission, that needs to be told to remove the tape as well as the car.
I suspect you're right. But yeah, as with so many, though, and I see, as I'm sure we all do, signs up about planning applications from 2 years ago that are still there. So I don't know the answer. I will find out.
If you could please, Mr. Hicks, at the end of the day, the police or highways or the insurance companies will be commissioning a recovery vehicle to go and collect said vehicle. Take the tape with them. So, okay, everybody happy to note the report from road safety? Thank you. Right, Mr. Matthews, agenda item 9 is a review of the complaints procedure within the Police and Crime Commissioner's Constitution. I believe I'm able to suggest that this is a panel discussion only, correct or not? Lauren?
No, it's a straightforward amendment to the Constitution, Chair, because it was previously approved by this panel. The amendment is slight. It's shown in red at page 68. It's simply to change the route of referral for certain types of complaint to recognise changes in guidance that have taken place over the years, so that referrals come via my office in consultation with you, as is usual with complaints. And the recommendations are at paragraph 14 of the report, Chair. It simply comes to this panel because the Constitution is approved by the panel, so any changes to it need to come back.
So, panel, I have had conversations with Lauren and indeed the Vice Chair on this. I'm extremely happy to propose that amendment. Happy to take, so do I have a seconder? Mr. Harrison, thank you. Can I take a vote, all members in favour of the amendment? That is unanimous, Lauren.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Right, thank you, panel and members, and Mr. Matthews and Claire. Yeah, so we're on agenda item 10. Agenda item 10, the date of the next meeting is scheduled to take place on the 1st of December 25. That's not correct.
Yeah, the next meeting is this Thursday.
I was going to say the next meeting is this week. It's Thursday, which is 27, 28, 29, 30th of October. So any other items the chairman has decided to take as urgent? There are none. So I thank everybody for your attendance. Councillor Powell, thank you very much for your substitution and contribution. Mr. Matthews, Claire, thank you very much. Safe travels home, everybody. And we'll see you later this week. Thank you.